Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. This is Melissa Greenhill. I'm a marketing specialist here at Encore. And today we've got Matt Street here from Sweet Engine, and he's going to be talking to us about Channel Sales Manager. So, hi, Matt. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, thanks. So yes, we're here to talk about our product, Channel Sales Manager, which does integration to e-commerce platforms and Amazon. And like to acknowledge Encore as our partner. We're here to support them and their clients. So whatever capacity we can be to help in installing our products and integrating it into your workflow, we're there to support them. So again, we're here to talk about Channel Sales Manager. And so what this is a tool that installs within Business Central and integrates with Amazon, Magento, and Shopify, to kind of name a few. So for each of these platforms, we have an app on AppSource that you can download from AppSource in Business Central. And one is CSM for Amazon, Magento, and Shopify. Those rely on a library module that automatically gets installed when you download the app. That's called Channel Sales Manager Core. And one of the key things about that is that that's where a lot of the functionality resides as to how we integrate with Business Central. So it has like all the supporting structures, and it also keeps track of all the communications with the various platforms. When we're talking about integrating into a platform, I like to use kind of the words what, when, and how. So if we can think about the core module that automatically gets installed, it's controlling the what and the when. So I'm downloading sales orders every 15 minutes. But the actual communication with Shopify or Amazon or Magento are done by the individual apps. So the how part is handled at the app level versus the library level. I also this is focusing on Business Central, but I also wanted to say that we do have a version that installs into the older products, into Microsoft Dynamics Nav, namely 2018 back to 2016, we officially support. We've moved it back further, but they typically will have limited features. And one of those reasons is that we're have a lot of published events in CSM to make it customizable. And I also wanted to show this slide to say that we have done some custom integrations using the core to other platforms. And so you can see the list here, and it's kind of growing as time goes on for certain nav users that need an integration to a certain e-commerce platform. So if you do have interest in the older versions, we can discuss that. It's a little bit different because we do not have an app that essentially installs into the older versions of Nav, but we install into objects that you supply us. So let's get into, maybe for those that don't know a whole lot about Amazon or the various platforms that we're saying that we integrate with, just a little bit of information to kind of get everybody in the same place. So with Amazon, we can sell our products on Amazon, and that's done through Seller Central. There's actually 3 basic ways that your product could sell on Amazon. It could be that Amazon is selling it direct, and in that case, that's a vendor central process where you are selling your product to Amazon and they are reselling it to their customers. Traditional wholesale type environment. However, you could be selling through Seller Central. And in this case, you are actually selling the product. Well, so when you go and search for Amazon, you can, or search on Amazon for a product, on every listing, it'll tell you who it's being sold by and who it's being fulfilled by. So the ones where it's sold by you are the FBA and FBM ways of selling on Amazon. FBA, you are sending your inventory to the Amazon warehouse. They are keeping it for you like a 3PL would. And then when somebody orders your product on Amazon, they are doing the fulfillment for you. So you can see sold by you and fulfilled by Amazon. When you're in the FBM mode, you are selling it. And then when an order takes place, that is communicated to you, and then you do the fulfillment. In other words, you ship directly to Amazon's customer. So you are selling it and you are fulfilling it. So that's one key piece of terminology that we need to know about Amazon. So our product supports the Seller Central models of fulfillment. For Shopify, this is a way that you can build your own store. So Shopify is pretty popular. I think it is the #1 in terms of number of merchants that have their online stores deployed. I typically think that it is a very clean approach, very modern. It has a lot of add-ons that you can install, but it's a basic, powerful site. And contrast that with another platform where you can build your own store, so Magento. And I like to kind of think about Magento as being like the Business Central level product, whereas Shopify is the QuickBooks product. Shopify is very cookie cutter. You do things the way that they want you to do them. There are some add-on modules that you can kind of change the behavior. But with Magento, it is more like Business Central, that it's very customizable. But you need another level of support to be able to keep a Magento site deployed. So Magento is actually the #1 e-commerce platform in terms of dollars that are transacted. But we typically see larger businesses using Magento than Shopify. So let's go into what CSM functionality does. So what we're looking to do is find those integration touch points between those external platforms and Business Central. So in our world, we classify our functionality by order management, inventory availability, listing management, and then with Amazon, we have a couple of specialized modules. One, reconciling or getting the information about Amazon's 14-day payment cycle, and 2, with the FBA module, how do we get inventory to Amazon? Because there's a whole process there where you're doing inventory planning, submitting inbound shipments, which would equate to transfer orders in your Business Central environment, and then kind of marshaling them all the way through the delivery to Amazon. Amazon needs to know like what item is in what package. They need to know how you're sending it, whether you're sending it LTL versus small parcel. They offer a partnering mechanism where they will actually set everything up and bill you for the freight. And so that is part of our inventory management module that is within Business Central and can do all those tasks. So let's concentrate on order management just a little bit. And some of the platforms, some of the features just are not applicable, right? So for Shopify and all the platforms, we're able to retrieve new and changed orders. So we're trying to get something that somebody ordered into our system in Business Central. We actually bring those into a holding place before we actually build the Business Central sales order. So another one of the features is translating what we receive from that external platform into the Business Central sales order. On the other side of the fence, once we've sent the customer the package, we need to send shipment tracking back to the platform so that they can notify the customer as to that it's shipped and the tracking information. So from an Amazon perspective, that only is necessary with FBM type orders because we're doing the fulfillment. With FBA type orders, Amazon is doing the fulfillment, so we do not need to have that that feature turned on. We can also look at the payment capture side. So when a customer pays for their order with a credit card, it can be set up in a number of different ways, both on Magento and Shopify, where you can specify that when they order it, there's an authorization. And then when you ship it, there's essentially the payment capture or the settlement. So you can set up Shopify to do what's called manual capture, meaning that when the order is placed, it will only be authorized and not settled. But CSM will be able to notify Shopify that this amount of the invoice now can be captured of the authorization, and it can handle partial invoices as well. But that's not applicable for Amazon. They are doing their own payment processing, and we don't need to worry about sending any type of capture information back to Amazon. Then we get to invoice information, and Shopify does not require that you send back invoice information. So that's really not applicable for Shopify or for Amazon. They're going to pay us what they're keeping track of. We don't need to invoice them. But with Magento, to be able to complete the order from what Magento wants, they want to know that the full order has been invoiced. So CSM is able to send Magento that invoice information back, which will allow the Magento status of the order to go to complete. So we're looking at CSM trying to essentially follow the order lifecycle that the platform has on the other side, and we want to automate them, those orders being complete and taken care of. So let's jump out right now and just take a look at some of the order management pieces. So, whoops, so I need to refresh. So what you're seeing is Business Central. Let me just type in information. So this is our CSM role center. And notice that we have some activities, and we're highly automated in our process. So normally people would only need to come to the role center to check on if some error got thrown or something needs to be addressed within the process. We also have the concept of these sales channels. So notice that here we have one sales channel for Amazon FBA, one for Amazon FBM, and another one for Shopify. We would support you having multiple Shopify stores, and they would just become additional sales channels. The sales channel actually defines kind of the behavior that we follow. In other words, how are we treating customers? How are we treating sales tax? Some cross references to shipping methods and payment methods, as well as defining inventory locations that we're using to fulfill these various channels. Up here, we can see our dashboard of orders that we've received in here. So we're seeing some past orders, seeing most of them are complete, and we're usually checking both what we think the status or what CSM thinks the status is versus what the external platform says the status is. So notice that Amazon, when it's all done, will have a ship status. And then we know once everything is shipped that we can mark ours as complete as well. Whereas Shopify will bring us to a complete status as well as soon as that it's been fully invoiced and fully shipped. It will keep its complete status. So let's just take a look, and we see like our Amazon FBA, our automation was able just to go through and post the whole order. So when we click on this one, we can see this fact box over here. We can see that we have a complete status, that we have that the total of the order that Amazon gave us was 1078, that we no longer have an outstanding sales order, but we do have an invoice for 1078. So it's important that the amounts match here. We then have a posted shipment that relates to this. And then with the Amazon module, we add these things for fees, and we'll get to that from the feature set at a future section where I'll show these. But if we want to look at this invoice, we can just hyperlink right to it. And this is now the standard Business Central invoice that was generated from this. So if you remember, we talked about the how, what, and when, and we have this concept of the automation, order automation, and then we also have listing automation. And this instructs what CSM to kind of do behind the scenes without human interaction. We can see the definition of the automation by coming here. I'm just going to sort it in sequence. And you can see that we kind of have all these different actions. More importantly, let's kind of look at this Amazon FBA one, where we are saying that when an order is processed from Amazon FBA, that we are going to automatically build the sales order, we're going to automatically release the sales order, and we're even going to post it. Because actually, what is there for a human to do on a FBA order? Because Amazon shipped it for us. So what we want to do is get the accounting into our system and show that we have a little bit less inventory in Amazon. So this is part of the core, and this is where we would set up like how often things run and on what schedule. So but I can use this button on the Role Center just to force the automation to run instead of it going through a behind the scenes process. And it'll take a little bit, 1 second, where it's actually going out and communicating with Amazon, communicating with Shopify, at least in this example. And when we go back to the channel orders after this, we can see that we have actually some new orders into the system. And we have one order that was canceled from Shopify and another one that was in process. And we can look over here. And if we highlight this one for this order, we can see that there's an outstanding Business Central sales order, and hyperlink to that and see the generated order. So we have some options on how we handle sales tax and then order level shipping charges. That's for a deeper dive into a demo at some future point in time, but we have a lot of options kind of built in. Let's just go back and look at some of the settings in order management. So I'm going to use the Shopify one. And if we go to essentially the definition of the sales channel, we can see that when we build orders, we're tying it to this inventory location. And since Shopify, we can define multiple payment methods up on Shopify. Maybe it's credit card, maybe we're selling on account. We are saying that we are going to set the Business Central payment method based on payment information that Shopify gets us. We're able to set a number series for when it builds Shopify orders. So we can make this just like any other order in Business Central that gets built, or we can make it so that the actual number will identify a Shopify order for us. We can override the dimensions. So for example, if we want one of our financial dimensions to always say that this was a Shopify order, we can override primary dimension 1 and 2. And we actually give an option, if you don't like how CSM builds the sales order, that there could be a custom logic for building the sales order from the information that we're seeing, that we're retrieving from Shopify. We've actually never had anybody use something different than what we supply, but we wanted to add some flexibility in for some very customized situations. You can also see down here, how are we handling when a shipment occurs for the order. So in this case, we're saying that we want to send shipment information back to Shopify and that we wanted to immediately send. So we are essentially subscribing to the shipment post logic, and as soon as a shipment posts within Business Central, we will be sending that tracking information that's part of that shipment up to Shopify. Similar to that is the invoice behavior. So we can send invoice information. We're going to send it immediately. And we also want to send invoice capture up to tell Shopify to be able to capture that credit card transaction. So we do have other options that we can explore as far as how we build customers, whether you just want to use a single customer for Shopify or whether we want to create a unique customer for every Shopify customer. And then when we go into some of the listing management pieces, we can see that we're able to build a listing and push information back up to Shopify in various ways. So let's go on from here and go back to our presentation and kind of go to the next piece of it. So that was order management. So the other feature that we have, or the integration touch point, is with inventory availability. So that's a highly requested integration point between the e-commerce platform and Business Central, is we want to let them know how much of this product do we have for them to sell. So we support in our out-of-the-box application that we can send from a single BC location up to a single, let's say, Shopify inventory location. And Shopify, both Shopify and Magento 2 have the capability for them to keep track of what's in multiple inventory locations. We have done some customizations for clients where we're able to aggregate multiple Business Central locations to feed up to Shopify or Magento or even Amazon for FBM. How much inventory do we have for them to be able to sell? And so for Amazon, we're really only doing things with FBM, right? Because FBA, the inventory gets communicated to them in a different way. They actually have our inventory. So we don't need to tell them how much we have in our location because they know what they have in their location. We also have some requests for supporting multiple e-commerce inventory locations. So we're able to achieve that on a per store basis. So up on Shopify, you may have 3 stores. Each one of those may get fed by a different inventory location. And we have the capability of doing that through our sales channel definition. So each store would become a sales channel, which would specify what inventory location we should get availability from. For us to be able to send up information for multiple locations that supply the same store, we're working on a future enhancement that would allow that type of functionality. So then we can kind of hop out to our application again. And so let's go into the Shopify sales channel. So we have this concept of listings. And think of a listing. Now from an order perspective, we are able to use a lot of standard Business Central constructs to be able to determine what item that was sold on Shopify relates to what item in Business Central, and even if it's down to the variant level or has a specific unit of measure. We're able to do that through matching the actual item number, or looking at the item identifier table, or looking at the item cross-reference. But when we're sending information back up to Shopify about a product, including availability, we have this this table that essentially tells us that we are selling this item on Shopify, and here's the SKU that Shopify knows it as. So when we want to like edit this one, we can see a lot of our listing management information about it. But for this feature right now, we want to highlight down here on availability. So with availability, we are defining one of the three Business Central methods that we could use. We could say it's either what's on hand, or availability is kind of the traditional availability calculation where it's taking what's on hand and subtracting from it what's already in demand on a sales order or a transfer order. And then available inventory is essentially taking out on-hand inventory minus any reservations. So those are the three methods that we use to calculate what the number should be. But then we allow you to adjust those numbers a little bit. So let's say that you wanted to reserve a certain portion of your inventory for other customers. You didn't want to tell Shopify about all the inventory you had. You could change this percent, and it would do this calculation, apply this percentage to it to come up with whatever should be that we need to send to Shopify. We can also specify a threshold. So this is essentially, we'll say we need to have 10 or more before we're going to tell Shopify that we have any. So if we don't meet this threshold, we're going to tell Shopify that we have 0. When the automation runs, it will do a calculation to figure out what is the number that we're going to send to Shopify, and then it will compare that to the last quantity that was sent. So really, the only communication that's required, because you could have thousands of items, we only really need to send up what has changed. So we're comparing the last value that we sent to the new calculation and only sending up any changes. Okay, so let's go back to our presentation and kind of go into the next piece of functionality, which would be listing management. So our listing management features are the ability to be able to update product information. So essentially, we're doing the basic product information, which would essentially be the SKU and the name. The price is included in here. Maybe some a tax group that it belongs to, and so on. They're a little bit different as far as which platforms require what information. And we have those where we're able to do that, create products and update products for both Shopify and Magento. We're working on something for the future to be able to create essentially seller central definitions of the product that we put up there, but we do not have listing management ready yet for Amazon. We do have the availability feed, but not these other pieces of functionality. But we can also send images up to those sites. We can send pricing information, category and attribute data for Magento. And we can even, in some cases, build configurable items. So essentially, those would be items that have choices, such as, in fashion, that we build one product with the style and then give it color size options. We're able to do that with Magento 1, and we actually have in beta with a client doing Shopify configurable items, and as well as M2, Magento 2 future configurable items. So let's go back a little bit to the application and just kind of look at some of those settings. And we do give you the availability to start adding more product information. So we kind of have some limited PIM pieces. So you see, we're also able to do like a long HTML description that you can attach to this listing that would be sent up to Shopify. So when we look at what this would look like, you can see that you can type in your HTML here and then see the preview of it. So it does support tags for HTML tags, so you can make it look as nice as you want. So that would be how we would do long descriptions. And then we also have images that we allow you to tag to it. We'll automatically pull in the any image that's attached to the item itself, but then we allow you to add other images as well, and all these can be set up to Shopify as part of this product listing. So let me just, I didn't actually have this part up, but let me see if I can do this real quick. So I'm just going to add a tab and go to Shopify. And let's look at our products here. So you can see that back scratcher that we were looking for on the CSM side has all the matching. So CSM was able to send all this information up, and we could make changes and push it up again with the 3 pictures that we mentioned before. Pricing will come from standard nav, our standard Business Central pricing mechanisms, where it could come from the item card, but we also allow you to specify a customer price group for Shopify. So if you wanted to have different prices for your Shopify site than normal MSRP, we could create a customer price group that would reflect those prices, and then that would be the price that we're sending up. With Magento, we're actually able to send up customer group pricing. Magento supports customers being part of a price group, and we're able to send up the tiered pricing from the Business Central sales price table up to that. So let's go back again and go to the next piece. So now these next slides will be more Amazon specific. So we have some specialty modules within CSM that does Amazon financial management. So here, for those that are selling on Amazon, you would be familiar with what they call a financial event group, which is essentially a 14-day payment cycle. So Amazon will pay you every 14 days. And if you went to Seller Central, you could see a statement such as this, where it's a traditional accounting statement. Here are all the new orders that you have, but we're having some fees that we're going to take it out of it. And in the end, here's what we're going to transfer to your bank account. So CSM will track those financial event groups and list them out within Business Central for you to look at. We will have the transaction detail for each financial event group by fee and charge type. So I'm not sure if you've ever seen how many different types of fees. I mean, this is just a summary here. There's hundreds of different fee types that Amazon has. So we're also able to look at an order that came from Amazon and see which fees were directly applicable to that order. That way you could get a little sense of margin, what margin you were able to get on a certain order that was sold on Amazon. And then we're also able to, for right now, is we have all the fee types defined from Amazon in CSM, and we allow you to tag them with a GL account. And this is for the purpose of you being able to make your general journal entry at the end of the 14 days. The sales posting process is essentially taking care of all the proceeds. In other words, all the money that is on the plus side that Amazon says it owes you, but the orders do not reflect the fees that we're taking out of them. So we allow you to summarize all those fee types by the GL account so that you can do your general journal entry. In the future, we have it in our backlog that we will be able to automatically create that general journal entry, but that's a future feature to come. So if we go back to the application, I'll just show you one thing about how the how that looks on the order level. So let's go back to the orders. So we can see on this Amazon order here that we had in the past that we have two new pieces to our fact box. One is called financial event charges, and one is fees. So how I think about these, are what Amazon calls a charge is what the customer paid for an order. Notice that it matches the order total. So they're considering that we owe you this money, but then they take out the fees. And part of the money that they can owe you could include sales tax, right? And Amazon is going to pay that sales tax on your behalf, and it will come out as a fee. I don't think this has an example of that, but essentially when we have an order that did have tax that ran through it, it would come up as one of these line items saying marketplace facilitator tax. So essentially they're taking the money back because they're going to pay for it on your behalf. I'm not sure how everybody is treating sales tax with Amazon, even though they're paying it. One of the things that I would like to say is that Amazon is calculating the tax on your behalf. You still actually owe that tax to whatever jurisdiction, but then they're paying it for you. So to me, it is good to record what the amount that you owe and then take back out what Amazon paid on your behalf. In case you ever had an audit with that jurisdiction, you're showing all the ins and outs because it is included as to what you owe. So over here we can see the fees. The amounts are over a little. So yeah, there's the amounts. They, at least for this transaction, they charge $3.48 in FBA fulfillment. So remember, for that fee, they went and picked the order, put it in a box, did all the shipping and carrier information, and sent it to the carrier. So some people look at this as a percentage of the order, and I think what I do is I challenge people to say, could you do this for $3.48? Could you send a warehouse worker out to pick a product, come back, put it in a box, and ship it off to the customer for that amount? And then they're charging their commission for the same. Okay. So we could also look back here at our financial event groups. And if we open one of these, we can see that this is like the 14-day cycle. And so our account is, oh, by the way, Amazon only has live. They don't have any test sites. So everything that we do on Amazon is live. And we have a couple of products out there. In other words, some coffee mugs and travel mugs that we have. And here is what they're charging for storage fees to keep those quantities there. And that's what we're seeing as our fee for this 14-day cycle. Okay. So let's go back to the presentation, go through the last piece of functionality. So we've seen financial management. The next Amazon module is FBA inventory management. So here, unless unless you're already selling on Amazon and know how Amazon FBA works, as far as how do you send Amazon your inventory, this may not make a whole lot of sense, but I'll kind of go through one of the things that you need to do. And you can do this on Seller Central, but we allow you to do this from within Business Central to keep it all in one place, is create an FBA shipping plan, which essentially says, Amazon, here is the inventory I want to send you. They then come back and break that shipping plan up into one or more inbound shipments. And they will have you send all or a portion of those items to a specific fulfillment center that they can do and use in their balancing routine, say what should they store at what warehouse based on your past sales history. But they could have you send it to a lot of different fulfillment centers as far as what you said in total, what you wanted to send them. They would break it apart and say, send this here, send this there, send this there. Once you have an active inbound shipment, then you need to kind of follow a workflow with Amazon where, first of all, you need to tell them what product is in what carton and then be able to print a label that identifies that carton so that they know what's inside that box once they receive it. And then they also want to know, how are you going to get this inventory to us? And you really have 4 choices. So you can see it over here. They allow you to do what's called partnered or non-partnered, both small parcel or LTL. And each one of these requires a little bit of different information. And CSM does support all 4 ways of doing it. So you could be saying, I want to do partnered small parcel, which then Amazon would say, okay, based on the weights of all your cartons, here's what we will charge you for that. And in comparing the rates that they send back, they are by far cheaper than a lot of people can get with UPS with their own accounts. So they will actually, after we send them the details of what our shipment looks like, we can print the labels and they will estimate the charges for us. We can accept that charge, and then it will also provide you with the carrier labels that you need for that. So part of this whole workflow requires that every box get a label, whether it's LTL or small parcel. It may get a carrier label. The LTL ones still need to have this carton label on it that essentially tells them what should be inside of that. So let's look, and I need to take you to one of our, we have this in beta right now, so it is not an official module. So I'm going to take you to this place that shows kind of how it works. And here's where we can define the plans. We have a plan and we open it up. We can see that we are going to ship it from this warehouse, and we want to send you these items. So we submit that to Amazon, and we can tell this one's already processed because we're keeping the status of it. So we're saying, yes, we successfully submitted this plan to Amazon. And then they came back with these inbound shipments and said, okay, let's send that all to this place. Versus other plans. So I'm actually going to go to a different one. Let's see if we have more than one here. Here they had us send it to 2 different fulfillment centers. Okay. So let's go back to this other inbound shipment and take a look at what it looks like. So the inbound shipment has a lot more information about it because this is where we're specifically going to be saying, or what we're sending in this to this fulfillment center, and it's down here as to where we're going to be sending that from. So here's the ship to. This came back from Amazon when we submitted our plan as to where this part, which fulfillment center this needed to be sent to. We can then, through these buttons up here in the actions, follow the workflow through, and some of these are grayed out because this is a not complete one, but we are able to kind of manage this inbound shipment. But then we can do this thing called suggest cartons that will split apart the quantities, and we have this concept of case pack. So when we're defining the listing, we can say for this item, when it's case packed, it uses this unit of measure, and we can actually pre-give the dimensions of the carton that it's going to go in. So the suggest part cartons will look at all that information and automatically generate our carton detail for what we're going to send up to Amazon. And if we're doing LTL, we could essentially add pallets, or if we were doing what's called mixed box cartons, which means that we're not case packing everything that we're sending, we can do some of those things there. But then we're able to send up the carton feed, and this is one that we already sent. So that tells Amazon which carton contains which item. Then the transport content can get sent, and there we're telling it where it is partnered and what's the shipment type, whether it's small parcel or LTL, what carrier we want it to use. And then after we sent that information, we got, depending on what you used, partnered or LTL or small parcel, these buttons will become active to be able to estimate. In other words, this is where Amazon is going to tell us how much they'll charge us for a partnered transaction. We can then confirm that yes, we accept those charges and are ready to send. If we don't like what we see, we can void it, even after we have 24 hours to void it if we've even confirmed it. But we can do that all from this dashboard. And we can even get the package labels and then be able to print those out. So if I do this, it actually downloads a file to our system, which is over on a different screen, and we can see the package labels that Amazon has. I don't think I opened that up right. There it is. So we're on the other screen. So essentially it's giving us our box label. If I had gotten this to where I had confirmed the UPS charges that Amazon was going to sell me, this would also have included the actual UPS label. Okay. So let's go back to the presentation. That's a module that should be coming for sure by the end of the year to AppSource. And we've gotten some good reviews on it from our beta installs that it's following Amazon's pattern pretty well. So one other point before we go into questions, I also wanted to say that we've designed CSM to be very customizable. I talked about, even having a code unit that could be developed that totally bypasses how CSM generates the sales order. But within the actual, all of CSM, we have a lot of published events that allow your partner Encore to write a subscriber application that will essentially change its behavior. So maybe you want to have something unique in how you're assigning the customer to the order. Maybe the item that you have some different rules that you want it to go through to determine what e-commerce SKU relates to what item within Business Central. Maybe we have some differences in tracking information. CSM will send the tracking information that's on the posted shipment, but maybe you have a third-party shipping solution that stores that tracking number somewhere else. So we can essentially tap into the published event where CSM is sending that information back and override it. Or maybe we need additional information on a sales order. So these are just some examples. We have literally hundreds of published events that allow you to kind of tailor the experience with CSM without changing the core code, which is something that we're trying to avoid. All right, so I think that that's the end of the formal presentation. So if there's any questions, I'd like to open that up now.
Great, thank you very much, Matt. Having a look here, I don't see any questions that have come in yet. But if anyone on the line is, feel free to add some into the question pane. And of course, we will be emailing out a recording of the webinar to everybody who attended today. So you can always reply to us with some questions as well.
Right. Yeah, and we're always glad to have one-on-one conversations, so contact your person at Encore and we can get together with them to do some deeper dives. This was pretty much an overview of, some of the functionality. We can do deeper dives into how it actually works with specific platforms if needed.
Great.
Great.
Okay, I don't see
I
any
don't see
questions
any
here, so I think we can give everyone a little bit of time back in their day.
Okay, great.
Thanks so much for showing us this, Matt. This was great.
Yeah, glad to do it.
Great, and have a good afternoon, everyone.
All right. Thanks.